lack of researched information and data. And also, there's lack of experts to actually consult with in the system. I would like to put you in context about what I have studied. I have studied indigenous traditional medicine. My interest is mainly on this traditional spiritual healers, and I targeted those who work in their shrines. I'll present my findings in chapters 4, 5, and 6. Now, WHO defines traditional medicine as a total sum of knowledge, skills, and practices based on beliefs and indigenous experiences in different cultures. What is important here is to note that WHO actually acknowledges that some aspects of traditional medicine cannot be defined or understood. And it is that area that I have ventured into, the area that cannot be explained. And traditional medicine, traditional health care practitioners are those recognized by the communities as competent to provide health care services. And also that has been significant for my study. There is increased global sensitivity to spirituality in medicine and sociology. And there is an increased relevance of ancestral spirits as an integral element in Africa's multi-ethnic society and health management. Ancestral spirits in healing is part of traditional medicine, and its relevance is in every community globally, in Africa, and in Uganda. In central Uganda, it is mainly practiced by Baganda. This practice is cultural, ritualistic, it is mystical, controversial, is less understood, and less documented. This was made worse by the Witchcraft Acts in Africa, which demonized the practice. Its practitioners were criminalized and imprisoned. Yes, we accept, as you all know, that there has been excesses in traditional medicine practice and a lot of negativities, especially with the opportunists that exist. However, the government has put up positive efforts to streamline the practice with the introduction of the Traditional and Complementary Medicine Act 2019. But even then, the act is not clear about the practice of ancestral spirits in healing. So what is my problem statement? That traditional health care and its practitioners have been in every community globally, in Africa and in Uganda for thousands of years. And the practice is closely associated with spirituality. These practices are controversial, mystical, less documented, and less understood. A deeper understanding of this system needs to be established so as to promote its rational use. It's against this background that this study sought to deeply understand the philosophical basis of traditional health care, looking at the concepts, beliefs, and the basis of decision-making. I aimed to understand and critically analyze the logical basis of traditional health care and objectively, specifically to explore the concepts that describe health, illness, and disease, to examine the belief systems influencing traditional healthcare practices, and then analyze the philosophical basis of decision-making when they are referring to the healthcare options. My conceptual framework, I could not get a linear relation within I could not easily get the linear relation between the variables. So the best that I could get next to was the galaxy outlay. So I used this galaxy outlay to engage, to illustrate the complexity and the connectivity of engaging ancestral spirits in healing. In the middle, Mr. Chairperson, stigmatization and criticism by religious leaders, educated people, health and non-health professionals. And the philosophical basis of ancestral spirits in healing has not been documented, and yet this rationality is required. I used a phenomenological and ethnographic. This was a phenomenological and ethnographic study. I used exploratory and analytical design. The study area was central Uganda. My study population were the ancestral healthcare spiritualists, and I targeted Baganda. Thematic saturation determined the sample size, and the sample selection was purposive. I used in-depth interview and partial integration observation participant for data collection, and analyzed the data using thematic, content, and event analysis. I used Atlas TI-22 to organize and facilitate the process of analysis. On addition to the usual considerations, I got approval from Baganda Kingdom and the Traditional Healers Associations. This approval was important because of the sacredness of this information source. And that is the sample of my study participant in the shrine, in the regalia, and also the artifacts they connect with during healing. I'll present my results in chapters 4, 5, and 6, which are interconnected. And actually, my results show the epistemology of Baganda spiritual healers, Yiganga or Kola, learn while working. Good health was described as obulamu obulungi. Illness as olumbe, disease as obulwadde. And obulamu obulungi, the participants insisted that you cannot claim to have good health if you don't have good relationship with your ancestors. And the physical and good health went beyond the physical and biological health to include the non-physical, physiological health, psychological, behavioral, soul, and spirit. Other aspects that actually, other aspects that were included to describe good health was affordability to human basic needs, food, shelter, and medical care. Social and good and cultural relations must be good. Also, good luck, omukisa, and blessing was also considered under good health. Having children, twins, and fertility was under good health as well. Illness and disease had many similarities, but the major differences were in their root causes, what they primarily affect, and the management processes. Disease, the root causes of disease were mainly organisms, physiological changes, and physical damage, while the root causes for illness were ancestral spirits, cultural issues, and witchcraft. Disease primarily affected the body structures, body organs, and their physiological body functions, while illness affected the soul, spirit, in the non-materials. Spiritualists believe in the influence of spirits in healthcare practices. The spiritualists believed in natural and ancestral spirits. And the ancestral spirits were further subdivided into ancestral spirits that possess a person and talk, and the ancestral spirits that don't possess a person and talk. So my study is a person and talk. So my study focused on the ancestral spirits that possess a person and talk. Lubaale asamirwa. Now, they believed that ancestral spirits have influence in healing. And these ancestral spirits were in their major categories, as you can see here. They were the dead spirits, emizimu, and also the mystical ancestral spirits. These mystical ancestral spirits were further subcategorized, emisambwa, emizari, were further subcategorized into those that are dead spirits. And the most mentioned ones are those ones. They believed that living and non-living things contain spiritual healing powers that can be tapped into. And the living materials, living things included animals, birds, and plants. The non-living things included use of regalia, amulets, and others. They also believed that non-materials have spiritual healing powers. The non-materials use words that can be used individually at a family level or communal. They use instructive words, okulamiriza, incarnation. And they use rituals to generate spiritual energies used in healing, sound and music, rhythms, and the ancestral spirits already described. Now, the philosophical basis was mainly expressed at 3 levels. the root causes of illness and disease, the traditional methods of management, and the process one goes through into becoming a healer. The root causes of culturally related illnesses and diseases. To the spiritual healers, most of the diseases were secondary to illnesses. And the major causes of illnesses were ancestral spirits, cultural issues, witchcraft. And for witchcraft, the cause were mainly envy, jealousy, and curses. While for cultural issues, failure to nurture your gift, and the ancestral spirits, the need for harmonization of the ancestral spirit really caused illnesses at the family and now, sorry, this one is a bit congested, but what I wanted to display is that treatment, prevention, protection, health maintenance, and health promotion are all these systems here, the amulets, symbols and symbolism, uses of fire and fireplaces, sacred places, and all those, that list can be used independently or together in the treatment, prevention, protection, health maintenance, and health promotion. And the spiritual healers put this is a detailed process. If you can look at this here, this training of the spiritists engages the use of offerings, sacrifice, divination, ritual healing. They go into initiations, dream and dream interpretation, use of words and prayer, vision, initiation, and all these processes, they go through the processes of connecting with the ancestral spirits, and also the ancestral spirits being able to connect with them at will, and also connecting with the material, the spiritual aspects of the material and the non-material in healing. So they really train in the use of regalia, symbols and symbolism, ethics. I was also impressed they have ethics and code of conduct. They train in dream and dream interpretation, how to use rituals, how to communicate with ancestral spirits, how to link with them, and also using the diagnostic tool, Mweso, and all that which I have already explained. Then, how do people become healers? Can you become a healer at will? The answer is no. You don't become a healer at will. Anybody who becomes a healer is actually anointed and shows indicators of anointment. And these indicators of anointment are actually identified by the people, by the family at home, by the communities. And when the individual is queer or anything is happening, people don't understand, even at family, they take them to the specialized healers who finally show that the indicators are indicative of the anointment. It is after they have identified that you have the indicators that you can go into exploration of ancestral spirits. This exploration of ancestral spirit is significant here because there are many dead people. The spirits of dead people are so many. So which dead person identified you? Which spirit, whose spirit are you engaging with? So during ancestral exploration of ancestral spirit, this spirit comes up, and this spirit, the spirit of the dead, is the one that actually has the spirits it worked with. Among these spirits, many of these ancestral mystical ancestral spirit, royal, dry land, and all of that, the spirit medium may identify one or two that he basically works with. And it is not him to identify, but during the ancestral spirit exploration, that process comes up. And then the spirit of the dead, the muzimu, also gives out, verbalizes the worker spirits, the mayembe, it was working with. And it is that full package that the spirit medium comes to associate with. And after associating with that, they then go into training apprenticeship that actually the spirit medium links with the relevant spirits that have been identified. And then they do the proper rituals that are concerned. And in the process, when the trainer is convinced that actually you have gone through the process, you have linked properly with the ancestral spirits and the spiritual powers of the treating of the material and non-material, then you go into the pass out graduation. And this graduation is a real good process. This graduation involves three major issues. It involves communal rituals, a chijulo, a communal meal. This communal meal is basically contributed to by many people, including the family, the people in the community, and many others. And this communal meal, and after that, it is still during graduation, there are very tough tests that are set. And those tough tests must be witnessed. And at the end of it, the witnesses, this is very significant, the aspect of witness, because the witnesses include the family members. The witness was done during the identification. During the identification and anointment, witness was done by the communities. During training and exploration of the ancestral spirits, communities observed and witnessed. During the pass out, communities witnessed. And at the end of it, the one I personally participated in and witnessed, I was surprised when the cultural, spiritual, and religious leaders and political leaders all attended that, witnessed that graduation. Also the public, the professionals, experienced spiritualists, attended, family members, and the community. Now, you find that for objective one, health is not a universal concept. There is no single definition for health that stands valid in all communities, at all times, and in all circumstances. And the differences between illness and disease are variably contested. And in this way, this contestation is very important, especially in facilitating inter-medical system communication. There is need for integration of medical systems, but if different words used by, if same words used by different professionals mean different things, it will be difficult, and also it can fail to influence policy considerations. In objective 2, we find out that the use of ancestral spirits is based on beliefs. This has already been contextualized, and earlier researchers have already written about it and recommended that indigenous ways of health management should always be put in context. The United Nations encourage indigenous people to be given a mandate to maintain, to control, to develop their own traditional medicine, their healthcare practices, and cultural expressions. The community is significant in the training and the practice of traditional healers. As you can see in the definition of WHO there, the practitioner must be recognized by the community where they stay. And this verification has already been documented by other writers. The confidence the communities have in the spiritualists has already been documented about, and indeed, it's a valid confidence because they have seen the person being trained from being identified to the graduation. The definition of traditional medicine, traditional health practitioner. Then now academic and research institutions have had positive engagement with the traditional healers, and this is a good undertaking, and universities such as Mbarara, even this PhD is an indicator of a positive engagement. Yes, thank you very much. And the earlier researchers have already done some write-ups on divination, how it is used to establish the health status of individuals, to distinguish between different illnesses and their causes. Scarification has been documented to be used in the management of chronic health conditions, and the amulets have been used in protection and healing of even psychological issues. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, an understanding of the use of ancestral spirits in healthcare among Baganda at least has been, and a beginning has been established. Words describing disease, illness and disease, much as they are closely related, they are distinctly different. Ancestral spirits, spiritualists believe in the influence of the health influence of ancestral spirits, and they also believe in the spiritual powers contained in living and non-living things, and also the spiritual powers contained in the non-materials. The healers using ancestral spirits undergo a detailed, informal, structured training. The root causes of illness determine the management process. And this study is contributing to literature on ancestral spirits, spirituality in healthcare. The implications indicate that actually the use of ancestral spirits in healthcare among Baganda is a reality. It's not a myth. And an understanding in this complex relationship between ancestral spirits and healing has been initiated. And data has been generated to contribute towards informing policy and practice of the spiritual healers. Researchers can amplify this in academic and applied research. And this study illuminates a contextual meaning of the WHO definition, a traditional healer, of the WHO definition of traditional medicine, where the total sum of knowledge, skills, and practices, and which is based on beliefs and experiences in different cultures. So that definition has been well illuminated, and also that some aspects, much as they cannot be explained, to some extent, some explanations can be generated. Practitioners can document and formalize their structured informal training and apprenticeship, and to the public, the rational use of ancestral spirits in healthcare can be established. We recommend researchers, we urge researchers to really study this aspect that the World Health Organization says cannot be explained. Let us do more research in those inexplicable aspects of traditional medicine in indigenous communities. Policymakers to contextualize the meaning and the words and the beliefs and the methods of healing. And the process of becoming a traditional healthcare practitioner has also been illuminated. And for policymakers still, the Traditional and Complementary Medicine Act 2019 eliminated, when they were defining traditional health practitioner, they eliminated this aspect of being recognized by the community as being competent. I really urge that aspect, the act should be revised and restore that community role of verification of traditional healthcare practitioner. It's very important. And the use of these findings to standardize, formalize, and formalize the training of and apprenticeship of the healers. And I would recommend that MUST should engage more in transdisciplinary studies. Given an opportunity, I would like really to go ahead and develop a theory of ancestralization in healthcare, where the engagement of ancestral spirits in healthcare becomes a theory being developed. I would like to let you know we have had 2 publications and 1 is under review. I would like to acknowledge my supervisors. My supervisors had time. We had really had time in this process, and I really thank you, the one who is present, Dr. Charles Muchunguzi, for being patient with me. It was really a stubborn issue, and it was difficult for both of us, but we have come to the end. I would like to thank my supervisors and the doctoral committee, the Farm Biotrack, for sponsoring this awkward, queered research, PhD research, and the pharmacy department to host me. I failed to be hosted elsewhere, and the pharmacy department accepted to host me, and the MUST leadership. The ancestral spirits. Because during the research, I had to be initiated a bit to be accepted to do research in ancestral spirits. So it's not easy, but when they accept you, it flows very easily. My study participants and my colleagues, friends, I'm polygamous chair, so I would like to thank my wives and my children, my many children who are on viewing me. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Thank you, our candidate of the day. I believe you have really given us the foundation for the next step, because the next step is going to be engagement. And in a doctoral defense, the most important part of it is for you defending your work. You have been doing this work for the last so many years. And we have here a panel. Fortunately, we have our excellent examiner and discussant for the day present. Welcome, Professor Kamatenes. So he's going to probably be the first one, isn't it? To be the first one to engage you. So while the external examiner prepares, there's something I need to remind myself. And you see, In the beginning of this week, I was told that I'm going to chair this meeting. And when they told me, the one thing I thought about is what someone called the Professor. Professor John A. Simbiti.
You can help me to unmute. Come and help me to mute. Okay.
Okay. Is that okay? So it's called Professor A. Simbiti, a Kenyan professor, and is a reverend, a priest. Can you hear us? They can't hear us, baby. But we shall be using this for talking. So you can mute that.
I can unmute this. It's here. This one.
Hello? I think it's okay now. We are going to be using this one. So Professor Mbiti wrote a book in 1969, and it was called Religion, African Religion and Philosophy. Oh, the philosophy of African religion, something like that. And as I've not seen any big book written about African religion and philosophy for so many years. And I believe this study is really seminal, because I think it will be the next one in East Africa in the same line of what Professor Mbiti wrote. He wrote a lot of things and practices and spiritualism. For him, he was not looking at it from your angle. So probably at the right time, I will ask you a few questions there.
All right.
Thank you very much. Professor, you can engage your candidate.
Yeah, thank you very much. The student, the candidate, and particularly ladies and gentlemen, professors, protocols observed, and the online audience, which is really very huge, of over 400. What? It's now 600. Yes, over 600 participants. You can see how serious this topic is, and it draws attention from very many people, and almost every Ugandan and the diaspora, they have a copy of this study. It's not about Dr. Sekagya years as a student, but I'm sure this touches the core of the Africans, generally African community, but also the European community as well. As you've heard, I'm Professor Mawuda Kamatenes Mujisha. I'm an ethnomedicine specialist. I have also interacted with the traditional healers. But one of the disclaimers I want to first give that I am a Christian and a confessing Christian, saved, born again. But I have been a student and a professor and practitioner of traditional medicine in one way or the other. And so when I was reading the book of Sekagya, I was reading it with very keen interest. It is actually very interesting. I would recommend that you read this book and also maybe the papers that have been published. You will learn a lot. There is a lot that is in common, so much similarity as far as the Christian healing system is concerned and the traditional healing system is concerned. And as a student of herbal medicine, you see a lot of information that needs to be captured and taken on. So when you even see the topic itself, philosophical basis of healthcare among Baganda traditional spiritualists, spiritual healers in central Uganda, the word philosophical already speaks questions. It means that this is a study. You know, philosophical questions from the study of philosophy that I studied have no answers. The moment they get answers, they become principles, they become theories. So that should tell you what it means. That some of these things, the answers have been generated, but some of the answers, it will also depend on you as either a practitioner or a researcher or someone who's interested, or you come from the same community. Like if, for example, if you are a Baganda, you will really be very interested in this, or you already know it. But at least I have been in Uganda, I've been in Busoga, I've gone to the Batwa, I've been in Windi, I've been in Kasese, I've been in Barara, I've been in Churuhura. Traditional healers are everywhere. The spiritualists are everywhere. Although our interaction has been to look for medicinal plants or the healing knowledge that is tangible, which he able to really explain in his chart. If you saw that, there is a graph that I want to, please take us to that chart, Dr. Sekagya. There is a lot that you see and so much that is being used. But when you go there as an ethnobotanist, for us to concentrate on the real world, the material part, you see there is material and non-material. The non-material sometimes also comes even under traditional healing systems where they use herbs. There are several traditions. But in the study of traditions, we were able to discover that these traditions, some of them were put there for a reason. Like one of that I can give, I'm trying to give a background so that you understand this one. One of the traditions that when we were in Windi, in Penetro National Park, which is actually under Mast, they were saying there was the one medicinal plant, they were calling it Nyachivazi, meaning the mother of drugs for deworming, which they get in the forest, deep in the forest, in the national park. So they had to gazette those areas for people to go there because the people from the parks were being harassed. They would not take tea. They would put what in their roads for their vehicles to deflate them. It was bad. So it was a big battle. So that's why I did my master's. Now they had to gazette. They had to agree with communities and they gazetted those areas. So one of the things I would say, if you are to go there, you must first, if you are a woman to get medicine, they call it okamara, to give the medicine strength. You have to dress in a dress without putting there anika. You don't have, we call it a chipumpuria. You are not supposed to put on a chipumpuria. That is now the local language, the Western, which I have seen other people are recommending and which I think at the end of it should recommend that this study should go to other cultures and other tribes. And you see how many people would dress like that. Not many people that you put on a dress like this one, you can see an open dress like this. Even the men, you are supposed to dress without tying like your buttons and the like. So not many people would go there. So we discovered that some of these techniques were for conservation because not many people can go there. It was also one way of preserving their knowledge, preserving their practices. So even when you read this surface of Sekagya, you really see a lot in the spirituality, in the spiritual realm. And therefore, when they put things like the dead people, that one is common everywhere. They call it a museum. It's a common thing, even all over. And you know, people respect the dead. Even in the spirituality, we say the dead are not dead. I hope you know that. But the dead are not what? Are not dead. Those who studied CRE, meaning that they are also living in the other world. But we differentiate the world. There is heaven and what? And hell. But it is there. So which means the museum it's a cross-cutting, either in spirituality, which is okay, in religion, and at the same time in spirituality. The non-tangible, we also talk about the heaven. Then that it's non-tangible. Do you touch heaven? No. So we also we have not been there, except those that we have read, the books that we have read, but they are there. But we know that it is there. So you can see there is a lot of so many similarities. Then he called them the spiritual mediums, which was bringing up the spiritual medium, who are the real human beings. So now we have priests, we have sheikhs, we have, those are the what? Those are the people we believe as far as the Bible is concerned or the Quran. So now when you look at this chart, you really see a lot. And I pray and I wish, Dr. Sekagya, you can explore more and other people explore more into this chart. It will bring in a lot. And so much knowledge is hidden there. Then you can see, like you sit down, there is what they call praise and prayer. Meaning that there is prayer everywhere. And I've just had a chance, we were in Buyukwe. If you go to Buyukwe, when we were introduced to the RDC, we went there, we went some of the spiritualists, we went some of the people, but I want to really assure you, some of you are worried, especially the Christians, don't worry. From what Dr. Sekagya has described, you can see that before you go to the spiritualism, there is initiation process. You must first accept. There is acceptance. And I want him to explain more, why is that acceptance there? Dr. Sekagya, why must you be accepted? And I think he should answer, because if I go, maybe may forget. Why must you be accepted?
Okay. Can I continue? Do you hear me?
I didn't hear. It's okay. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Initiation, you are going into sacred knowledge. Knowledge which is particular for specific people, for specific functions. For me, I thought I was a spiritualist before, but when I went to the spiritualist, they told me I'm a baby. They cannot accept me to access that sacred information until I'm initiated. That initiation, I had to be initiated to access the ancestral spirits and also to access the natural spirits. So, natural spirits, accessing natural spirits, the ritual was done in the mountains where I stayed 3 days under stone. And that assisted to connect with the spirits, and also the spirits to connect with me. And also for the ancestral spirits, so connecting with the spirits and also connecting with the spiritual aspects of the plants and nature. You need that connectivity. So that initiation puts you into that connectivity, Prof.
So from his explanation, you have just heard that it is important, the initiation process is for connectivity. The way you go to church and you accept God is the connectivity that is there. So I actually, when I was going to examine this book, I first said, should I examine? I don't examine. But in my heart, I said, I am also a believer. And it is me who should actually examine this book and actually read and try to look at the two worlds, because I've been there as a student, as a researcher, and the like. So now, members, what I wanted first to demystify from you is that when you go in a place, in whatever you are going to do, there is always nobody is forced to do what they are not supposed to do. You first accept. And acceptance is what makes the difference in your life. So the moment you accept, you are initiated. And then when you are initiated, then you start connecting. And in the spirituality, that tells you that if you go to God and you have accepted in the church, there must be connectivity. And in that connectivity, you must be accepted. That's how you hear that you can speak to God, people can pray, can speak in tongues, can pray for people, and they get healed. So if you say they cannot get healed, then you shouldn't believe this one. I wanted to bring that one out as a Christian, so that you also understand that the also word that is there, which we talk about, the spiritual word, is available of God, as you can believe that this one is also what is there. Remember, God is the creator. Even what you see here, God is the creator. I was actually raising the same questions in your book. I was asking, if you are saying that the museum can rebel and do wrong things. Yeah, he writes it that in fact, the supervisor said that he went to the shrines. He knows that I've also been there to Ujukwe. This is in Uganda, that's the center of shrine spiritualism is in Ujukwe. Almost every home you go, the rivers, the trees, the hills, there is what? Spirituality. Even when you talk to the women, the children, everybody knows that. You go in homes, you really see it. And even the police, the army, everybody, they know. So when you have to go there, it's the first, should I call it, the first orientation, they first give you, how you must survive in such places. But don't worry. Because us who know that we have other powers, where God is reigning, we know that we are supreme. So according to his book, Sekagya is where you write, you say that the spirits can rebel. So they must also be guided. They must be told what to do. In case they go astray, or maybe someone who is a medium is not right. Why must they go through that? And yet they are spirits. I thought they should be in the know of what is happening.
Prof, the question is not yet clear. It's not clear.
The question is, I'm saying, you say in one of your sections, towards the end of the book, when you are describing the Msamba, that they can rebel, they do wrong things. Instead of maybe like killing, they harm, or they go astray and they do what they are not supposed to do. They're supposed to be a senior person who will direct them, or someone who knows why should you have to do that. And yet their spirits, they should be in the know of what is happening.
Thank you, Prof. What I reported is not what I think. I reported what I found. And that's what I found, that some spirits can rebel. But putting it in context, because I also asked near to that, was that they rebel against who? That was the question. The spirits that are not well connected to the spirit medium, where this person, the dead spirit that controls this other spirit, were not connected, harmonized. The harmonization process did not take place. Rebellion takes place. But where harmonization, initiation takes place, harmonization takes place, there is no rebellion. So these worker spirits, they are like Basilicare. They are sent, they do what they are sent to do. It's not the logic of whether what they do is good or right, good or bad. They do what they are sent to do. But the controlling spirit about that is the muzimu. So the systems that use Mayembe most here actually experience rebellious spirits more.
Now, in line with that, the Mayembe and how they can rebel, I raised one key question from your study about the spirituality and the human sacrifice. If the Mayembe can do anything, that means they can sacrifice a human being, or they can kill. And I was in your study, I did not see you talk more about human sacrifice. And to me, I thought that was one of the key things that should have come out from your study.
Thank you very much, Prof. It didn't come out because most of the people I studied with, they use this ancestral spirit called Muwanga. And that was one of the criterion of inclusion. Spirit Muwanga is the most disciplined spirit according to the Barubari. And none of the spiritualists using ancestral spirit Muwanga is indisciplined. And in any case, the ethical code of conduct is heavily adhered to for the ancestral spirits, use the people who at least have ancestral spirit Muwanga. So most of my respondents were using ancestral spirit Muwanga. So human sacrifice to them was not at all there. Even getting in touch with the human blood was a taboo.
So among the people you interviewed, those you excluded because you had a big list, were there some who are doing human sacrifice? Because why it's coming out? Because it's a serious issue. When we do such studies, that should speak into the challenges that we face as a country. It is one of the things that is portrayed, that it is a challenge in Uganda, the human sacrifice issue. And I believe with such studies, we should make a statement or maybe a policy or a guide.
Thank you, Prof. Now, I personally went into that discussion in a non-informal way with the people who were at the healers' places. And the argument was that the first question I was asked was, are they really healers who do the sacrifice? I couldn't establish that, and I couldn't pin it down. So to them, that is criminal. Killing is a criminal. Also claiming that these animals are sacred animals, because in most cases, they are part of the spirit medium. When the spirit is not actively working in them, it rests in the animals. And those animals are part of the animals they keep at home. So if you don't keep the animal, the spirit would be heavy on you if it walks with you all the time. So the spirit comes in when it needs you or when you need it, and after that, it goes into the animal. So those animals are really very important for within the family, and they are kept as sacred animals and only sacrificed when the need is called for. And in most cases, it is at the prescription of the ancestral spirit.
I hope you have heard members, they should have a question there. That's why they say everyone should keep animals. You should have an animal. That in case. Now, that I never wanted to go there, but I think he should clarify also the royal spirits. When you look at the royal spirits, I also did not see you bring out the issue of coronation. Was it important or it is not important? Because the coronation, because the royal spirits, they are placed, the sacred places, which are reserved for rituals.
Engaging
in the royal
family.
That one, I think there is something information. Why must they go there? Now,
mainly for the royal spirits, these spirits here, Abalangira, I requested to go to one of the sites. I was denied the right. I was told I'm not competent enough to go there, much as I was initiated. But on asking, they said, yes, those places, they have greater spiritual powers and greater engagement with the royal families. And the royal family, what I also got was that the royal family, for example, if the royal family in Uganda fails to be managed using ancestral spirits of Uganda, they can come to the royal family in Ankole or Busoga and be managed by the royal family, by the royal spirits of the neighboring kingdom. That's what I got, but I could not understand much more because I was denied access.
That one requires further research. You've had it's an area, and I think should be of interest. The Uganda National Museums, they are trying to gazette those areas, including what you have seen, the Rubiri and the like. So there is a touristic effect, but there is also a spiritual part of worship. I think it is important to take it on, to recommend to the national museums to give us more. At least I've worked with them. There is a project we are working on traditional medicine in transition. So we are working with the national museums. And I think that is an area that we should take on. The other thing that Dr. Sekagya, you put out are the animals and plants. In your book, I don't see a list of animals and, okay, you mentioned them, a list of plants. And I feel it is high time you get us that list. When you look at it, as people who are interested in this knowledge, you can put out the list of the medicinal plants. For the different, some are for food, others are for drinks, others are for like to wash and to bathe, for bad omen. That is one of the key findings that I find in your book, but it is not pulled out.
Yeah, I have that list, but during my initiation process with the spiritualists and the spirits themselves, they said whatever I should do, write, they should acknowledge, they should accept it. So in my first draft, I had the list of the plants. And when I engaged them, they told me that, no, remove that list. So, and I had to obey to that because that's what I had. And when I went in at first, because I had said, in fact, I was challenged when I introduced the consent form about the confidentiality. This was possessed by a healer. The spirit possessed a healer and asked me, if you're talking about confidentiality, do you really mean it? Because whatever you are going to see here is confidential. And as again, you are saying you are going to write a book. So what do you actually mean? And then we had to formulate it together with them, and you say it is anonymity other than confidentiality. So, but when I talked about the need for the list of the plants that have spiritual values, the list was long. They confirmed the list is good, and they said, but don't display it because the plants will be endangered. They will not be protected. That's the reason they gave.
I actually read with Kingdoms. I said this list is really very important. It has a lot of science. It has a lot of social cultural benefit, including food and for conservation. So I feel that maybe you need to engage further for such lists to be documented. By the way, I have not said that we were in Switzerland. I've remembered from Anki, which is near Germany. Spiritualism it's not an African issue. Even in the developed world, it is there because we visited shrines. So they have shrines, but the only thing that their shrines, they put their explanation. That's what Dr. Sekagya is trying to bring, by the way. The Halloween nights, yeah. So you can, so they are there. When you find even a whole medical doctor, but he has a shrine. At least we went in one where we saw a medical doctor. He has plants, but has a what? Shrine. He has those animals the Regalia is talking about. They were there, including the sitting posture and the like. So that means spiritualism is not for Africa alone. It is a global issue. It's a global issue, and I feel Dr. Sekagya, your study should also point something like that. I think I have asked many questions. I should be concluding. But the list, you need to do something. There are for eating, others for smoking, others were for food, others were for bathing, and to me, I thought that was science. Then the regalia, when you got your book, you put a lot of information on regalia and tools used in the reference list. And I am of the view that it should be put, because that is what is key. It should be put in the text, rather than, yeah, because you put like the calabash, you find those calabash that have what, the animals, the clothes they put on, that is what is core. Let it, already it's done. Put it and put it under section. Let it be the real data, rather than being in the appendix. It's actually not appendix, real data. People want to have a look at it. Dr. Sekagya, to the policy makers, what do you think your study is going to contribute? Precisely.
Thank you very much. Initially, the first part within the Traditional and Complementary Medicine Act, the way they define the traditional health practitioner, they removed the element of being recognized by the community. I would suggest that should be revised and put back, such that the whole definition of traditional medicine stands as it is, even within our Traditional and Complementary Medicine Act. Two, the aspect illuminated here, when you talk of traditional medicine and you are talking of practices based on beliefs, experiences, and cultural issues, policymakers, they tend to neglect that. But this study has illuminated that that aspect is important and it should be done properly. And the contextualization of the words illness and disease. Those words should really be contextualized properly, because the Western definition of illness and disease are not very comprehensive, and they don't stand valid for the African society. The illness and disease, the illness especially, does not engage the aspects beyond the physical body. The Western definition of disease really addresses issues to do with the physical body. It does not go beyond. But what I found here, even a relationship contributes to good health. And that is not defined in those aspects. Then for policymakers, there should be real policies engaging greater studies in the non-aspects that cannot be explained using, because the failure to explain here is that they don't follow into the Western logic framework. That's why we would say they cannot be explained. They don't follow in the Western logic framework. Not that they can't be explained really. They can be explained using another logic, a logical framework. So when you talk about spirituality, within that logic, things can be explained. But within the Western medical framework, the aspect of spirituality in healthcare is not there. So the logic, there is parallelism in the logical framework.
I think what you are saying would be true, but now we are looking at a profession where they don't want knowledge to come in the public domain. Like now, the list of plants, to me, I feel the list of plants should be given, because that's a science. I am of the view that you better consult their leaders. You went through NACOSA, you went through the procedure, how you went there. It is very elaborate. The list, you may not say what they treat, but let the list of plants come out, because there is science that there is. And people can follow up and go, maybe, and do further research. Because to me, this knowledge shouldn't remain unearthed.
Yes, please.
And
Yeah.
you can see that, and indeed you also acknowledge that there's a long list of medicinal plants, which actually many ethnobotanical plants, let's not say medicinal plants, because others are for rituals, others are for food, others are for bad omen, and the like. And I believe it's one of the important findings you got.
Yes.
And so if they are to be completed under health in the policy, in the law, don't you think there is a missing gap?
Now, Ruth, you have put me in a very difficult position where you actually have brought the need for that science and inclusion of the list, which is against the spirits, which I accepted that I will follow their recommendations. So now I'm in the dilemma. I want to pass, and I want also to pay allegiance. But one spiritual healer, in fact, he was a young boy. He was the youngest. He said, if we are important because of these plants, and these plants have been there, we don't own them. If the policies also talk about us, it would be good. And he told me to get the policy. And on one of the visits, he had mobilized about 30 other healers, and we went through the policy. They told me to take them through the policy, and the policy was silent about them. And they said, oh, so we are not included. We are not included. And the policy says issues to do with them will be addressed by the traditional and complementary medicine council. And I engaged that it will be included by this council. And they were clever, and they told me, okay, what would be the composition of the council? And the composition of the council is meant to have 7 people and only 2 traditional healers and only 1 spiritualist. And I said, now, do you think this will represent us really? So they had good arguments, but there was no way I could do. But I insisted I will do what they told me I want to do, and I removed it from the list. And if Dr. Charles could testify, initially in the initial draft, I had the list of plants. But in the second draft, they told me to remove it.
Maybe from us, they know what to do. Then, as I'm on my concluding side, hereditary aspects versus conservation. Those sacred places, sacred plants. Where do you see the future? Hereditary aspects. The conservation versus, should I say, the modernization that there is now, including the spirituality level of the people. Where do you see us in the future? Or where do you see this spiritualism?
The future, to me, generally, without the taboos associated in spirituality and the conservative nature of those taboos when they are put in context, we are losing a lot. A lot of degradation has taken place. The so-called sacred places that were taken as very important have been destroyed because of this modernity. And until we really go back to the roots and revalue our values, or contextualize and understand the more about this inheritance, sacredness, and the related aspects in conservation, we shall be losing. So to me, the best is to revalue our values as Africans.
So you recommend such places should be gazetted?
Should be gazetted, but first of all, the value should be understood. Because when it comes to gazetting, they ask for evidence of literature. So there is much more need for more studies into the contextual aspects of nature and its role, such that provides the literature which will be based upon to do the gazetting.
Now, with Uganda, when you see Uganda's vision 2040, we are supposed to grow to become a middle income country. Do you see these practices, are they taking us there? Given that when you look at the people you interviewed from the book, generally, you see majority, they did not go get formal education. Two, majority, they went through some experience that were not right, sickness and the like. Do you think if you promote such practices, will they take us there? And what would be their contribution?
Yes, both yes and no. Allow me to begin with the yes. If Africa or the indigenous people, we were given the opportunity to develop at our pace, valuing our indigenous knowledge and its values, given the last 185 years, we would be far. We would have developed much of those aspects. For example, in traditional medicine has not been funded. Laws are against it. Educated people are against it. Very religious people are against it. But it is surviving. And the World Health Organization puts it that that system that is ignored serves between 60 to 80% of the population of the world. So a system that is not funded, nothing about the contemporary issues supported, still serves 80% of the population, is a very strong system. It's a very, very, very strong system. Now, just be giving it the right to exist legally will make a difference. But on the other no aspect is that this system still remains strong because it was ignored, because it was criticized, because it went undercover. And it's still strong because it is undercover. As soon as it is exposed and it is studied too much, adulteration will be high of the system. Until we are better oriented as Africans, we have revalued our values, we have accepted to go back to our roots, then the system will open up out to us such that we shall develop it much faster. Those people who have developed their systems of health, the Chinese, the Ayurveda and all other systems, have put it forward. Also, yes, because the traditional medicine has been given 2 decades for development. The first decade of traditional medicine, the first 10 years, actually helped Chinese to formalize their traditional medicine. And Chinese traditional medicine came ahead, forward. Then African traditional medicine did not benefit. Then we had the second decade for traditional medicine, which ended last year. And in that decade, the Indian medicines, Asian medicines really have prospered. They have gone ahead to have a center for development of traditional medicine, recognized by WHO or funded by WHO. African traditional medicine has not benefited. We are still at the level of setting standards and defining what health means. We are still at that level. But fortunately, last year in May, there was a call to give the third traditional medicine decade. And we hope strategically, if we strategically position ourselves, this is the decade that should help African traditional medicine. And this is one of the strategies of having literature on board such that the policymakers have something to base upon in giving.
My last question, I want to comment to, for the viewers and those who are here, when we went to Switzerland, there were places that we visited. Some of them are this for pilgrims. The cross, where you find the cross, Switzerland is a religious country. We are going to the monasteries and the like. Then those places, when we would go with those spiritualists, they would say that the cross has a lot of power. That it has a lot of power. They call them energies. Meaning that as a student or as someone who is interested in the spiritualism and both the Christianity or the religious, you need to know that even the spiritualists recognize the power of the cross. Even those who don't believe. I would ask those questions, and I know Dr. Sekagya, you are aware. So I would want you to give us your final, your comment on what do you see spiritualism, versus the modern religion. Let me call it modern, the like Christianity or modern religion. And where is this taking us? If we are to, you are aware of Switzerland and the like, you know what is there. There are traditional medicines practiced in skyscrapers, storied buildings. There are gardens well made. There are beautiful houses made. But for us, we are still in shrines and the like. Don't you think that we need to move further? But otherwise, I find your study very interesting. And there is a lot that you are bringing forward, and this knowledge, the documentation and publishing is very vital for any scientist and anybody who is interested going beyond.
Thank you very much. I was also surprised when I reached the shrine and the attire had this cross.
Yes. Yeah.
So I asked about that, and they say whatever you see here is spiritual power. So now relating to spirituality and religion, the small exposure I have got indicates that spirituality is universal. Spirituality has no big limit. Spirituality is like water, it's universal. But the way it is packaged, the cultural context of packaging defines the religion component of spirituality. So religion is not necessarily, according to the exposure I got, is not necessarily spirituality. But religion is the format of packaging spirituality, depending on the cultural background where that religion started. So, because I interacted with the healers, and some of them were Muslims, others were Christians, and others were, I did not find a Seventh-day Adventist, but they were saying spirituality, I mean, religion has nothing to do with this. This is spirituality. It's not religion. And I said, what do you mean? And their explanations really say, he gave me one aspect of this water. It was just this water. They said water is universal. But the way it is packaged brings the preference. Others want Rwenzori water. Others want another lake water. So the way water is packaged does not change the content. The packaging does not change the content. In religion, the content is spirituality. The way it is spirituality is packaged makes it a religion. And that one brings in convenience, a lot of convenience and faith. So they were saying faith is mainly more about the way spirituality is packaged. It's not about spirituality. People who know spirituality tap into it for the benefit of everybody. You don't need to be in a certain corner for spirituality to engage in spirituality.
Okay, thank you very much. I know there's a lot to be said, but we have to proceed. I beg you don't get tired. I remember I told you that the presentation was the beginning. And thank you, Professor Maudi, for this really extensive interaction with your candidate. It has been enriching not only to him, but also to the audience, because they want to, I said you are the discussant, and I think you have done this job very, very well. Thank you very much. Now, we have two more examiners on the panel. One is present here. I don't know. Maybe we can start with you, who is around, because we don't know what's happening over there. Dr. Jonanis, are you online?
I'm ready.
Oh.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, let us start with this one here, then you'll come in. I hope you'll keep around.
Okay. I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, you can start engaging your candidate. Now, for you have a bit less time compared to the discussant versus external examiner. So I don't know how much time you will use to interact with the candidate. Thank you very much, Jonanis.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chair, Dr. Tisubira, for this wonderful job of chairing and moderating this session. I would like to begin by introducing myself. I'm Dr. Jonanis Timire. I'm a senior lecturer in the Department of Pharmacy at Mara University of Science and Technology, and I currently serve as the Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Medicine. Right now, I'm out of space because there's an engagement with the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda, where we are currently, where I'm currently based, but I managed to secure some time off those activities to be able to have an interaction with the candidates, Dr. Yahaya, Sekagya. Yeah, I would like to really appreciate everyone in this meeting, in this defense, both those who are online, the majority, it's been at the maximum of 500 for these accounts, and those who are physically in the Department of Pharmacy. I'd like to really appreciate the job done by the candidates, Yahaya, whose book I have the pleasure of reading in physical form. Yeah, over the past 3-4 weeks, and I've really enjoyed the book. It's a field of study that interests me, although I cannot suggest that I may be a spiritualist as well. But as his book says, and as he has presented in his defense today, sometimes you don't know that you are actually chosen those are my beginning remarks. I would like to appreciate the work done by the supervisors and the candidates who have done an excellent job. So a few questions really that came to my mind as I read the book and listened to the presentation today. You made an interesting distinction. I hope the candidate can hear me well.
Yes, please, I can. I do.
You have made a very interesting distinction between illness and disease by arguing that illness is spiritual, whereas disease is physical. And I think you suggest that for illnesses, your health can only come from the spiritual realm, and then for disease, that is the allopathic medicine that we are used in the conventional Western medicine. Is that so? Can you confirm that I got your primary thesis well? For your objective one especially.
The difference, to some extent, yes, but not fully so, because illness finally manifests in the physical body. Whatever manifests in the physical body is not necessarily disease, but it can be both an illness and a disease. And yes, that's what I meant. And it takes another step to tell the difference.
Okay.
Yes, please.
All right, I get it. So it means that you need to be free of both illness and disease for you to be considered healthy.
Yes.
And by that, you mean that in a hospital like ours at the referral, regional referral hospital, where there would be other dimensions of treatment. I know we have people who come in to pray and so on. But policy-wise, this is mainly allopathic-driven care. So does that suggest that we could be having a gap in our health care?
Yes, the gap actually exists because initially, personally, I didn't know the difference between illness and disease, but actualizing it in the field, I appreciated that actually we have a very big gap. And this gap is difficult to narrow unless we appreciate the difference between the two. And we have also seen cases where a person comes to hospital, is really ill. We do all the possible diagnostic steps. We fail to make a diagnosis. And we end up saying we have not been able to make a diagnosis. When actually we have just failed to understand the problem. Yes, please.
I think that is very clear. I think that is very enriching. The next one is, I know the spiritual realm that you are investigating, and I think you've also admitted that the spirit chose you, and so by that you are a practitioner of this kind of medicine. I know for a fact that this is mainly a mystic kind of arena. People talk about these things in hushed tones. They never really, don't have a public defense that this is now, a camp for spiritual health care, apart from maybe the religious aspect of it. So by shining a spotlight on this kind kind of practice, won't you actually diminish its powers? Because it seems as if the powers are actually derived from that lack of clarity about what exactly happened. So by putting a spotlight, you publish two papers in leading journals, this one, you are having other papers coming out. This is one of the best that I've read, and it's likely to be read by so many. So by people knowing more about this, they diminish that myth that is associated with the practice, and therefore diminish the powers of this particular type of medicine.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Now, mysticism is not a power element in spirituality. Being mystical is not an aspect that really proves or engages or empowers the spiritual powers. Being mystical is an illusion on us who feel educated. It is mystical because the system cannot be explained. We don't have the right yardstick to measure the system. The failure to have the right yardstick does not actually mean that the yardstick does not exist. The yardstick exists, but we have been conditioned in a system that is proud of a universal yardstick, that we should use the Western standard medical system that we have as the standard for measurement of any other healthcare system. But indeed, when you have some elements on acupuncture, it first defied the Western medical system, but it insisted, and finally the medical system went ahead and accepted it. There are systems like Siddha medicine in India. Also, they are struggling by putting up a different yardstick to use it to measure their system. And they are succeeding, and WHO now has accepted Siddha medicine. So in traditional healthcare system, our spirituality, it is not mystical that, in fact, mysticism helped it to survive. It went into hiding, it was hated, it was criminalized. Everybody practicing it, there was a systematic process, a systematic program funded to destroy the system. So going undercover was the survival option. But now, it was the survival option, and now, even then when I was engaging with the spirits, that question came up. Won't you put us, uncover our system? And it becomes, because we have survived because we went underground. And we are safe underground. You want us to put us in the light. Won't you destroy us? But another system, another spiritual entity came in and said, but again, we might not be able to engage and gauge the level of maturity that exists in Africa now until we have opened up a bit. Let this be a bit of opening, and we assess what happens. What I appreciated was that the spiritual entities are more clever than we think we are. So they are watching us, and if I don't disappoint them by divulging the information I was told not to put forward yet, we might be safe. They might be safe. But if I yield to the pressure, like Professor Maud told me to, then I would disappoint them and possibly I would be in danger. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I have just a few more questions. Allow me, Chair, please. These are very interesting issues. I think one is related to your methodology. You were initiated before data collection, and the purpose was ensure that there was union of mind and intent between you and the system you are trying to investigate. So my concern was whether this would have had an impact on your interpretation of what the process was, and whether you were actually initiated out of that experience. Because if you go in with a certain divine initiation, how do you disengage? Do you remain in that initiation mode, or do you engage once you are getting out of it? And maybe as you explain that, how does your own practice, being a practitioner in a system that is either similar or related, how did it affect your ability to make rational judgment? If rational actually applies this kind of system, I'm very sorry because rational is borrowed from Western practice. When we talk of rational drug design from the pharmacy perspective, you're looking at the receptor, the drug, and you're trying to match them. So how did you know initiation, that initiation of mind and intent, plus your own experience as a practitioner of this medicine, affect your ability to be able to actually appraise the system and make rational judgments and recommendations about it?
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that question. Those questions. And Chair, you will allow me to slightly elaborate on this. First of all, I'm a dental surgeon. I'm a dental surgeon, and in dental surgery, if you go in, for example, to study more about gingivitis or periodontology, it would make sense if you are a dental surgeon. It would not make sense if you are a gynecologist to study periodontology or gingivitis. So as a practitioner to that level, it gave me an advantage that I was studying a system where I am already knowledgeable a bit. But still, to my surprise, when I went in, I thought I was, until I was told I'm a baby in the system, I needed to upgrade. And if you allow me just to explain a bit, at this level, I had the indicators personally and an anointment. Ancestral exploration was done, but to me, it was not complete. So much as I went ahead into training, I am half-baked. This is what I got when I was in the field, because I thought I had done it properly. But the level of a spiritualist, what was done to me at that level, I appreciated that it was not a complete one. So I feel I need to do much more on myself to become a spiritualist. So by their standard, I'm not yet a spiritualist. So taking me into an initiation stage indeed helped me to have a connectivity to be accepted. Being accepted in the system is very key. It's like when you come to do a PhD here and you don't have a master's degree, they wouldn't accept you. So being accepted, you have to have some qualifications. Indeed, being accepted to do this kind of work, I had to upgrade my spirituality by going through that initiation process, which means others who don't do such processes might not qualify to do this, this initiation. And disengagement is one of the training you undergo through, how to engage and disengage. And that aspect, I'm thorough, sir, that I can disengage at will.
Yeah, I think, Chair, my last question, my very last question.
Okay, the last one, thank you.
The very last question is about, there's a defense that happened at Makega in the morning, which is in a similar kind of field. Dr. Sekagya, are you aware of that candidate and this one?
I'm aware of the candidate, but I did not attend the defense because by the time I logged in, it had already filled the capacity. So I could not listen to his defense.
Yeah, actually that is where my question comes from, because this is what is kind of related, and you know how much we struggle to change the difference, and somehow it happened on the same day on Friday. And I was wondering whether some powers had to make sure that both places are on the same day. And you were originally scheduled in the morning. And by mistake, I think it was by me, I put you in the afternoon. And somehow the material candidate was in the morning. And I didn't know. So I'm wondering whether anything had late that I'm not aware of, which try to avoid the clash, but then it's on the same day. And I'm also aware Mama is actually in the audience, and probably she wanted to attend more. So was it that maybe the clash was not a good idea, and therefore somehow some powers caused me to make an error and to the afternoon? Yeah, so I don't know, but those questions actually kept playing in my mind today when I saw the advert from Makere that there is a student doing work on this same thing, and then I realized that the error had not happened. Your defenses have been on the same at the same time. So I don't know, Yahaya, if from your experience these things can actually be explained. That some coincidences like this, some errors, okay, what we think are errors, and you know, certain things happening, are they actually explainable, like the one that has just happened today? And maybe, I don't know, we are not allowed to examine audience, but maybe Martina will confirm if she has something to do with this. I suppose, I don't know, but that's where my engagement came. Thank you so much.
I can add a bit to that. Actually, spirituality is more organized than we think, and that is possibly a reflection of that things happened that way, to the extent that it has also woken you up. In that reality, I'm surprised. But indeed, Mama Fina was one of the people I asked permission to access the healers. So one of the traditional healers association, her association is called Uganda Nobuwangwa Bwaffe, and I also got permission from her. And fortunately, I also know her personally, so I don't know if she intervened at that level, I don't know. But thank you for that comment and realization.
Thank you for that succinct and clear answer. We're going to have another intern examiner. You are going to use more than 10 years.
My name is Yahaya. I'm here at the Department of Community Health. Imelda Tamwesjire, Department of Community Health. I would also like to start by congratulating the candidate, Dr. Sekagya. And for me, you are brave. Thank you for being brave. I have 3 technical questions, then the others are to improve the work. My first technical question is on methodology. This is a qualitative study, and you only used one study population. How did you take care of triangulation? My other question is on achievement of objective number 3. He can take the 3 of them and then we improve. My other question is on achievement of the study objective number 3. In your literature review, you said there was no literature. In your results, I don't see what you have added to objective number 3. My other technical question is on recommendations. Should we recommend to policymakers or to the traditionalists? So I can have those answered, then I will go into making the work better.
Thank you very much. The first question related to the methodology and the aspect of triangulation. One, we were studying the experience of the spiritualists. I could not add the experience of the people being treated because those were not my targets. And 2, these were personal experiences. A focus group discussion wouldn't work because it's not a consensus on what people say, but it's what you experience. However, during the process, I worked with the 2 research assistants, and then we were taken through, with a consultant, we are taken through note-taking, doing qualitative studies, and then independent note-taking and reflexivity, that one. So now, during most of the questions, initial questions were asked by the 1 research assistant. And we were all the 3 taking the observations and all of that. And thereafter, each research assistant had a recorder, and they took their independent observations and recording, which they translated and translated. So the 3 of us were as if we are independent people, doing different observations, our observations as independent people, and note-taking and writing note-taking. Then during the data analysis, we were joined, the supervisors also helped us in the process of looking at the data. And also that one helped in triangulation. But indeed, triangulation was not adequately done, which I accept. And then in the literature, initially when I went into, I used grounded theory approach, where you don't do much literature as you go into the field. You do the literature after. And during the, after the field, and during the, that's when I accessed much of the literature that I have reflected. And so now, at that aspect, I don't understand what question you want me to answer.
You don't add a lot on objective number 3. You have a lot of information on objective 2 and objective 1. Objective 3, which is the philosophical basis. You don't have, I would imagine that the study would have benefited from attempts to actually provide the whys of what you observed. For example, what is the meaning of night rituals? Why does one have to use darkness? So there is no explanation in your observations. So you don't give us an analysis of what you describe. You describe disease, you describe illness, you describe practices, but in third objective, I expected you to actually give us the whys of what you observed as practices.
All right.
So that objective is kind of scanty.
Yes, please.
Scantily covered.
That's not.
Then the final one, recommendations. Why are they to policymakers, not to the traditionalists? On the recommendations,
the practitioners, we have, what I have recommended is actually how one becomes a healer. According to what I saw, how one becomes a healer is informal, but very well structured. And it's very systematic. So I recommended that that one can be formalized and standardized. And to the policymakers, what I felt was more in the contextual meaning of these things. So if more studies are done in other tribes in Uganda, and the results are compared, we could have a different way of interpreting these beliefs. That's what I had in mind.
So, to go to the area of improving their work,
yes, please.
If I were the one writing this book, I would have made it very, very positive. Your supervisor calls it romanticizing the book. You spend a lot of time bringing out the stigma. You spend a lot of time worried about what people think of the practice. Yet, I thought you were someone who loves the practice. So if you love the practice, instead of going to the negative side, you go to the positive side, and you tell us why it is popular, how many people use it, why should we use it? If it was not there, for us who are actually not using it, what are we missing? So instead of telling us the negatives, you should actually give us the positives. So the packaging of your book does not encourage me to actually become a traditional healer. Yes. So you should write it in a way that makes me become a traditional healer. Yes. Then I thought that it didn't fit in the Department of Pharmacy because I kept juxtaposing what you were writing. Me, I'm a Catholic, to the Catholic Church. I kept imagining the spirits we call them, who might be the ones we are calling angels. And for us, when we call them angels, they are beautiful things. For you, when you say spirits, they are black. So how can you make that positive so that we actually package it? And then from my scientific background, I believe religion is like political parties. So, but the motivation behind the political party is democratic governance. So the religions are political parties, and inside them there is spiritualism. And the spiritualism is based on cultures. And what the other cultures have done, they have written holy books. The Bible is a holy book based on the Jewish culture. The Quran is based on the Muslim people. I don't know they are from where. There is a Triptaka from the Buddha guys. There is one for the Hindu. There is one for the Indians. So my recommendation would be that you guys put your things in writing so that we have a holy book. Yes. So that we have a holy book. Instead of recommending to policymakers to change policy, you have to sell this product to us by actually writing a holy book, by having content of your training curriculum, by having competent healers who are not quacks, by telling us what is acceptable and not acceptable, and by your study is very silent on psychological manipulation and creation of fear during healing. We need to understand which is the right thing. So me, I'm requesting for a holy book. So the packaging of the book and the recommendations, I think they would greatly improve and make us actually love it. Because the difference, when you look at your chart, if you put the Catholic Church there, the regalia, the things we use, the essence we burn, the holy places, the cross, the rosary, the water, Chibeho. So it is how you have packaged your spiritualism that will actually matter. Once again, thank you for being very brave.
I don't know whether you have one or two statements to comment before we go to the next step.
Yes, on that, thank you very much for the observations and the comment and the recommendations. I had one challenge when I was still in the field. There is a group that is making up a religion in tradition, and there is conflict between the practitioners and that group. Beita Abamurisa. Now, those who say we shouldn't make a book, they are saying, why should we follow a failing trend? All those books are failing. Give them 50 years to come, they are a failure. Why should we follow that trend? And they say, because the aspect of holy books, this spiritualists were saying, that's a failing trend. Holy books are failing, we cannot go in. In fact, let me use Uganda. They were saying, tulaba bwana bwambata nga bugwa mu kinnya, one after the other, nawe n'ogenda ogweyo. So to them, African spirituality is very strong because it is not adulterated. Writing books is adulterating spirituality. That is to them. Because I went ahead to ask why, because they say, you write what you have understood. And we believe what you understand is very little to be a standard. So, leaving it unwritten, leaving rituals, they were relating to themselves to rituals. Leaving a ritual be the way it is much better than writing about the ritual. The ritual gets away the emotions, the body participates, the rhythm, and all of that. You cannot write all of those in a book. So, to them, that was it. But otherwise, thank you very much for that.
Thank you for that response.
But I think, Dr. Sekagya, you should clarify. There is already a religion in Mukono where they pray on Saturday of Edini no ne Miranda, something like that.
That's the one. That's the one that is existing, but the spiritualists are against it. So there is a fight within the same group. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. The next step, we are going to have the public engagement, which will be a bit shorter. Now, I don't know, the IT people are going to help us. We shall have at least 2 people online. I know there could be many, but only 2 online. And then we can have also people from the audience participate. So, I don't know, maybe you can start from online. Someone can help me check there. While you check to see who is going to be first, let us start online, the 2 people. Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh, okay. You can go ahead. You can start with that one.
I am Dr. Sylvia Calendar Carter. Congratulations to my former student, Dr. Sekagya. My question is very simple. I'm also signing in from the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, where I am right now.
Okay.
What steps are needed in academia to take advantage of the WHO complementary status, complementary medicine status for the work that is being done currently in Uganda?
Thank you. Is that the only one? And
And my other question was,
okay, go ahead.
is there a special reason for selecting the Baganda kingdom as the sample for the study?
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, let us just answer those ones. You're welcome. No, please let us answer these ones, then you can have the next one. I'll call the names.
Thank you very much, Dr. Calendar. And for the WHO aspect, in fact, WHO recommends contextualizing its recommendations to our cultural settings, and which we have not done because most of the African nations, for example, have not contextualized traditional medicine to its cultural settings. If that is done, it will go a long way towards answering what you think should be done. Why Baganda? I appreciate that much of the spirituality is within the cultural setup. Being accepted to do the research, and also much of the expressions were to be expressed in local language. And me myself being a Muganda, I didn't need an interpreter, served me very well to actually understand the context. And I would recommend that the indigenous people themselves in the different cultures should take the initiatives to study within their own languages, because much information is lost during interpretation. Thank you, Dr. Calendar.
Thank you very much, and that was really a good question. Can we have Musira Timothy? Is that one ready? Musira Timothy, please, online. If he's not ready, then you can have another. Is he ready? Hello? Okay, he's not there. Okay.
Hello.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
All right, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yahaya, for this revealing, study that you did. My name is Timothy Musila, and I'm the Health Policy and Financing Specialist working in the Ministry of Health. We had worked on some policy prescriptions for traditional and complementary medicine, and maybe Yahaya has seen some of them. And we are in the process of improving and updating them and reforming them to fit with the current times. And I'm just hoping that when we reach out to you, because your studies are going to inform what we are going to do, but we are likely also to reach out to you for guidance as an expert on how to handle that subsection of traditional and complementary medicine. Otherwise, thank you very much for the work that you've done. and it is quite revealing, and we think that it is quite useful in the policy arena as we try to interrogate how to improve the policies that we have towards being all inclusive as practitioners in the health field. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then we have another Timothy Kasule, I think. Is that one ready? Check. If he's online and ready.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you so much, Mr. Yahaya, for the insightful presentation. I would like to get clarity from you is what you are.
Just a minute. Can you tell us who you are? Sorry. Timothy.
Sorry. My name is Timothy Waswa, and
we are from the audience. Okay.
I'm interested in yes, Ugandan spirituality. I'd like clarity from Mr. Sekagya whether what he described called Samira is what he calls ancestral spiritualism and Ugandan spiritual healing the same as Samira. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Actually, Okusamira is different from this, though the difference is not very significant. I mean, it's not very much, but the issue is how you call in the ancestral spirits, how you engage the ancestral spirits, and for what purpose. So Okusamira is not necessarily for healing, but healing aspects might as well engage Okusamira. But Okusamira, you can engage spirits not only for healing, but for other purposes.
I think that's okay. I think let us have one more from the audience. There's someone called Zola. How do you pronounce this one?
Yes.
Okay, Zola.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing me in there. I have, I think, 2 questions. I'm very touched by the subject, so I may fail to speak briefly, but here is it. So, firstly, I am in the process of spiritual awakening in South Africa. I will call it Ubela. That's the lady who's taking me through the process. And currently in Uganda, I'm obviously interested in finding out about existing traditional healing communities. First question, are there any existing traditional healing communities in the country? Maybe we can also add in the East African region. And also the second question is on connectedness of the healing communities, obviously regionally within the East African region. And I don't know to the host who was presenting that if you know of any connectedness with other African countries just across the whole African continent, how connected is this practice? In South Africa, we suffer a lot of young people who are going through spiritual awakening, suffer from discrimination and stigmatization from school level and all of those kind of levels. And our work has been sensitizing people around this sort of practice. So how is the Ugandan population or society, how is their reception and response to traditional healing practices, to the individuals that are going through the process, but also to the entire practice? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Muteto. I have been to South Africa, and I had training with Baba Credo Mutwa before he died. He was one of my trainers. And we have, there is a big network of connectivity within spirituality. Our spirituality has a lot in common. The lady you talked about, I've interacted with her many times in South Africa, and also when they were, there is a lot we have in common, I would say. The perception is not different from most of the African countries. We have the perception of the educated very religious people. They have that perception that they have acquired through academia and all of that and religion, but still they stay indigenous. The indigenous aspect is within them, and indeed they comply to most of their required aspects. So the connectivity is high, and in most African countries we have a network of 18 countries in Africa. We have a network that involves about 10 countries in Europe and other countries. So the network is there.
Thank you for the answer. I hope that was clear. Due to popular demand, I'm going to have two more from online, only two. One is Professor Katamba, and another one is Mama Fina. I think we can start with the Professor Katamba. Professor, are you there?
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
You are audible, clear and loud.
Yes, my name is Professor Dr. Katamba David, and I'm from MUGS. I must also disclose that I'm very impressed with the presentation of Mr. Dr. Yahaya Hills. And I also, before I make a submission, I must disclose that I'm also a service provider in the area where Yahaya is doing research. Oh. So I will work for, but I'm coming from the angle of academic debate, and it will make a few issues clearer, but also to put a philosophical orientation to what Yahaya is doing, so that we make this a PhD. Dr. Yahaya, one, I need to thank you. I don't know what's my teacher will be, but we will tell the audience that because in one of your submissions, there's where you mentioned of the 7 rims. There's that concept of framework you designed. And I've picked interest to come and make a submission following one of the academicians from the Christianity family. Dr. Yahaya, thank you so much for not attacking any region from any angle, but to make matters much clearer. And you really added debate to the previous speaker from Makerere University. Dr. Yahaya, yes, that concept of to contextualize his debate to the School of Pharmacy. He was very keen, though his points were not coming out well. I know why his submissions were somehow not clear. It's because the audience is somehow biased, while others are not biased, given the type of studies undertaking. But from the traditional perspective and ancestral spirituality where he's coming from, Yahaya's submission clearly speaks out to what we call one, physical healing. In the spirituality, there is actual physical healing. For example, you may sit under a tree when you are sick and you rest, but you can never explain what has made your headache disappear. When Yahaya uses this concept of framework he has somewhere he has water spirits, Abalunyanja. In the, remember this school that I'm a spiritual service provider, so I understand this that concept very well. There's a spirit called Chiwanuka. In the Western Uganda, they call it Kaguluka, Chomia, Elisa. In the Greece and in Greece, there's also another name, maybe it's Zeus and other things. These spirits physically heal. So if you're trying to fix the debate of spread in the physical, in the medicine world, you have something which are not explained. For example, you can't explain how Chiwanuka will heal you from headache by putting water in a nsumbi. Instead of you slimming, the spirit moves from your body and goes into the nsumbi, the pot, and brings from there. Then you get healed, so no one can explain that.
Thank you very much.
When you bring out the conceptualization.
Sorry?
Then we have another. Lastly, as I conclude, we have Mulerwas. We have the Mulerwas. These are.
Please conclude. Thank you. Sorry, we didn't hear that last statement.
So, Yahaya, as I conclude, for the last statement is make Yahaya's submission connect with the academic debate.
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please, be brief, please.
I'm submitting by saying that. I'm submitting by requesting to convince all the unexplained energy or physical physiology into what people can see. For example, using Mulerwa, these people give birth in the local community. No one can explain how they turn the code of a child which has olulira nga lwetolodde omwana mu mutwe. The Moiras do it, but in most modern medicine, they would take a lady for C-section. So, Yahaya, as you try to make these come out clear, so that your PhD can add knowledge. That's what one of the academicians was telling you, that he doesn't clearly see this connection, the connection between the unseen and the seen. Yahaya, try to bring that out very well. So that is an academic debate. I submit.
Thank you very much. Let us have, I don't know whether Mama Fina is saying that.
I submit.
Yeah, thank you very much. Briefly also.
Tell Mama Fina to unmute.
Hey. Can you unmute? Is it Mama Fina? Yeah. Hey. Hello? Is she hearing us? Mama Fina? Unmuted or muted? Okay, if he's not yet ready, we can go. IT people. Okay. If you
Moderator, sorry, moderator. I think we are also here online. I know you have limited the people to contribute, but we really wish to contribute.
Okay, be brief, please. Please, only one question and a brief one. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Can I go forward? My name is Abraham Shekanawa.
Okay.
And my question to Mr. Sekagya, Dr. Sekagya, sorry, is what is your explanation between the Abrahamic religions looking for hill spaces? If, for example, you look at Nyamitanga Hill, you look in Mbarara, you look at Roharo, you look at all the spaces that the Abrahamic religions have taken, they are on hills. And also we understand that the spiritists, if I can, the spiritualists also like the hills. For example, the hills of Tanjeni in the Shema, we know that those are the dwellings of the Bachwezi, for example. Is there a connection between the Abrahamic religion that the god of the Abrahamic religion is in the hills, and the same way as the African religions are in the hills? I come from Bunyaruguru, for example, a place of hills, and actually each hill is understood to be holding a certain mystic. And for your information, also the
thank you.
Are immigrants from Uganda. Could you explain the spiritual connection between the hills and of these religions? If this was part of your PhD.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's clear and loud. I don't know whether you can get a brief answer, please.
Yes. Thank you very much. What I know is when I was being initiated, I was taken to the hill. But otherwise, the scope, the hills and their energy was not part of my study. I don't have an explanation on that because I did not engage in that to that level, sir.
Please, we can stop for the online for the time being because the people physically in the audience want to also say something. So please, IT help us. We can have the audience, then we can, if we have time, we can go back to the online. I start with, I think, Dr. Grace. Yes, internal medicine.
Thank you very much.
No, Mike.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dos. Thank you, Dr. Yahaya, and congratulations. This has been very enlightening, and I'm glad I was not initiated. But I am wondering, you're a medical doctor, and you're also a spiritualist. Do you have any conflict of interest? How does this affect you when you're dealing with me who has come to you for dental care? And you mentioned that sometimes we don't find a diagnosis and you think it is spiritual things. So what do you suggest? Do you want us on the teams to have a spiritualist? Are you suggesting to the policymakers that they should allow us to let patients go to the shrine, or we should have a spiritualist within the hospital? What do you suggest? Thank you.
Thank you very much. One, relating to the conflict. In fact, I'm just advantaged. It's not a conflict, it's a complementary role. And in most cases, we all need it. And indeed, we have it, but we underplay it. There are issues where you find that actually the right diagnosis, you are failing to make a right diagnosis, and you said Dake one way. You have already consented to some option, available option of saying Dake one way. Yes? Or again, do this and that. But having and acknowledging both is a very big advantage. And two, my recommendation is that actually there is a very big gap we have in the medical system, where when we fail to make a right diagnosis, we give up. We don't give the options. But it has also been because of the legal framework. As a medical doctor, there is no way you can refer somebody to a shrine as a medical doctor, but until this policy is out, and if it is very well grounded, that option would be there. Yes, please.
Thank you. One more. There's a question from the audience.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Yahaya Sekagya. I'm Engineer Anke Weisheit, Chair Innovation and Business Management of Farm Biotruck, and we are very proud of having you as one of our PhD fellows in our program. My question is, if, for example, an Acholi is interested in doing the practice you are describing, is this possible? Is that interchangeable between different cultural groups to practice what you're saying, to pass through the training and then be a practitioner, but not a Muganda? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. During ancestral exploration, they identify the spirit of Omuzimu, and that Muzimu should have an ancestral relationship with you, and it is a key. So the Acholi might not do it the Buganda way, but can do it the Acholi way. And I feel, I hope, this model can work in all tribes. It can work in all tribes because the dead spirits are there in each tribe. But most important, the spirit of the dead should have a genetic relationship with you, the spirit medium. But the mystical ancestral spirits and Mayembe don't need to. Yes, please.
Thank you for the answer. Now we are going to, because now it seems the questions are too many, but we want to just briefly go online with a few of the questions. I think IT is going to help me read out some of the questions. You can read like 3 or 4 and then we stop there. For those who have written them down. That's okay? Who's reading? I'm audible now. I have a question online from do you hope to remain part of the initiation? Okay, read another one. The recording will be available. Can I leave that one? Next one.
Sorry about that. Yes, so the second question is trying to scroll through. Well, I think someone was speaking about microbiologists trying to let them know that what you see in the microscope is the body housing a life. That life is a spirit. It's not kind of like a question, but just a statement.
That's enough question. Is the question you had?
Yes, relating to the initiation and will I remain part of them? I am already part of them. I was before. The only advantage I have seen here is that there is much more for me to do to really be part of them. I have some work to do and proudly be part of them.
Thank you. Please be brief. The mic is somewhere there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yahaya. My name is I noted you mentioned about the elements that we discovered. Do you foresee a challenge, especially when we come to because we need to come out of the high and do you think this is right to protection of their family rights or is something much more than that?
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, relating to secrecy, things are unfolding. All of them will not open at the same time. I think let us not hurry so much. Since this little has opened, evaluation will be done by the spirits themselves, and much more will open. About the patency, actually spiritualists and the spirits themselves don't believe in that aspect of patenting knowledge. They don't believe in it because they say knowledge cannot be patented. And especially when it's a communal knowledge with communal benefit. Putting it to an individual benefit is a taboo to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brief, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sekagya, for your fascinating presentation. It reminds me when we met for the first time in a conference, and you are happy and proudly saying that Sekagya and I'm a witch doctor. So, and people would just look at you, no, a witch doctor. And people would look at you and they thought you were joking. So I had a moment with you at lunchtime to see how a witch you were. And we discussed, and then you told me that being a witch doctor is not bad and witchcraft is not bad, because when colonialists came here, whatever they didn't understand, they would say this is witchcraft. So this takes me back to your historical background, because I didn't start with you. So I don't know whether you traced historically from the pre-colonial setting to the colonial setting, how colonialists came and how they disbanded our knowledge and started saying this is witchcraft, separating it from here, and as if they took some of our knowledge and brought it as novel. So I see even the current religion that we are practicing, I see it's coming from your presentation, it's coming from the African knowledge, the spirituality, having been taken and then brought back as novel, because for it was documented, and at the same time we had something to read. And I see you are insisting that we cannot document our African knowledge. So it means the other European knowledge that has been picked up and even from our own knowledge has been written will continue to surpass ours, because ours is not documented at all. So nobody can read to understand the spirituality. And as someone who is part of them, how did you separate? There is what we call stranger value in research. How did you separate yourself? Stranger value. Separate yourself from others. And finally, yes, the final one. There is that kind of stigma and fear by people seeing me going to seek these divine interventions. People tend to go at night. They don't want to be seen. So how can you convince people that this is something good that we need to use, and we don't have to have that stigma and fear of the public? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I can only be able to say some about witchcraft. Other than the word witchcraft and the intonation it gets and the implication it means, witchcraft is a very good word. One, craft is an art. Witch, even if they say now that that's a witch in a computer, it means he's very good.
Wizard.
A wizard is very good. So, being very good in a certain art, what's wrong with that? So, witchcraft, I am happy to be one. But, when you take the notions it goes with, that doing bad, that is just implanted. Whatever is good could be having a bad element. We have seen medical doctors raping women. We cannot say medicine is bad because one doctor did it. Before Western medicine came in, millions of years, we used a traditional healthcare system and we survived. It cannot overnight turn to be very bad because the white has come in. So those of us who think it becomes very bad instantly because somebody has come in and popularized their system, financed it, gave it the laws to protect it, but this system has stayed addressing 80% of the population, we must rethink. How did I separate myself from this system? Yes, I had a consultant because I went into qualitative analysis, to me, which was a very new system. I'm used to quantitative. So we engaged a real consultant in that and taught us how to bracket ourselves, which we successfully did. Yes.
Chair, it's just it's not a question. Someone once told me that a person healed a patient with a disease, and it's just a misspelling of the word witch. So they said, which doctor did this? So people are misspelling the word witch, doctor. But they were wondering which doctor had done that. That's a joke.
That's a good one.
So thank you very much. I don't know if this one is on. Is it on? So thank you very much to the people in the audience. When I use this mic, it's for the audience. I appreciate the lengthy engagement. We have a panel, so we are going to allow the rest of the members to give us some time. IT will help us, some people go off so that we can have a discussion with the panel. Decision about the outcomes of the examinations are with the panel, and the panel is made of the internal examiners. Someone is online, and then the external examiner. And the rest of the members, I know you're interested in this topic, so you will have to conduct it privately, the candidate, and you will learn more. I think some of you may prefer to I know there's something interesting. I had also had some more questions to ask, but I will contact him privately. An example is the fact that many of you know Abrahamic religions. I think someone was referring to them. But then they are somehow also indigenous somehow. You can see the acts, the spiritual, everything is similar to those religions. Anyway, so, I don't know. Let me have IT help me. We remain with the external examiner. I think even the head of department, Richams. Richams, are you online? Dr. Richams is online, I think. John? Hello? And then, is there something? And then the rest of the members will stay here. So everybody will stay here. The panel is going to move to another room so that those online can wait a bit. So everybody stays here. So members, give us like 10 minutes only. Then we shall come back to you.
I also.
No, for you.